Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker opens on Thursday. I'm seeing it at midnight at my local cinema. And of course, I had to watch all the Star Wars films. I haven't watched them a lot. I saw the originals, the special edition in a cinema. I saw the prequels in the cinema as they came out. Before I watched The Phantom Menace, I watched all the original trilogy on video. Before I watched Revenge of the Sith, I watched the first two prequels on DVD. And before I went to see Rise of The Force Awakens, um, I watched all the prequels and the originals again on DVD. So that, and when I saw them on TV as a kid, I think is all that I've actually watched them. So I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, I always loved it, but I never like rewatched it. I didn't like live with it like some people that would just watched it all the time. I was more like that with Star Trek, but Star Trek was more episodic. It was easier to do that. I felt the Star Wars films are more epic one-offs. But I just sat down and watched the prequel trilogy, and after I make this, I'm going to watch Solo, which is the only one I don't have on Blu-ray. I'm going to have to watch it on DVD because I forgot to buy it on Blu-ray. Um, and I still don't have The Last Jedi on DVD also. I have it on Blu-ray, but I have all of them on Blu-ray and DVD. So yes, it was interesting going back to watch The Phantom Menace. I remember when it came out, the excitement. I remember the unspoken disappointment where it was so much about politics and posturing and metachlorians, and Jar Jar ruined everything. I know everyone has bitched about Jar Jar, but I didn't hate him, but he just took the seriousness and drama and danger and anything out of any scenes, any action scene, any action sequence, or Jar Jar was just there to bring the moment down to a childish level. And I feel bad for the actor who got so much crap. He was suicidal at one point. Um, I didn't hate him. I didn't hate the character. I didn't send him hate mail or anything, apparently, like some people did. But rewatching it, I was really enjoying it up until Jar Jar came, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot. And then the whole tone of the film after that was different. And that battle sequence at the end, it's just slapstick center. Um, and I just still can't believe George went that far with it. Now, yeah, I'm going to talk about all three films because I just watched all three films. It's like a little retro review of the whole prequel trilogy. And I've got my two little droid friends here. And actually, the Millennium Falcon's back there somewhere, but you can't really see it in the shadows. Um, so yeah, it starts off. I mean, the first shot was underwhelming because it wasn't some big, grand, epic ship. It was just a shuttle going into space, into orbit. Um, and of course, we have the oddly Asian stereotypical Asian sounding aliens, which are that just came off as oddly racist. And I noticed by the third film their accents had disappeared. Um, the palace was gorgeous. I seem to recall that they actually used practical models still for this film. I think by the end of the trilogy they were all CGI, but they did actually have practical models which they augmented with CGI people and elements. But there was a element of reality and realness to the effects, some of the effects, which was sorely missed in later films. But the Phantom Menace had it. The biblical references and the Christ elements that people have talked about a lot. I never noticed any of this when I first saw the film. But when you look at it now, like the Immaculate Conception and the pod race being like Ben-Hur's chariot race, and just taking just I'm surprised George went that hard on it, and that people didn't respond to it as badly as they did at the time. It's something that seemed to get more obvious and more discussed as it went on, or maybe I was just too young to really appreciate it, and it seemed like it came later with reevaluations, but people were probably talking about it from the start, and I just wasn't aware of it. Um, I mean, the story isn't that complicated. Basically, there's a political attempt to take over a government by using trade policies and blockades, and um, it's very dry and boring, but very disturbingly realistic. And when you're looking at the current state of Brexit and Australian politics with the religious freedom laws and and Trump, it's seeming less like science fiction. When I watched the prequel series just then, I'm watching a lot of things. I'm like, the death of democracy comes with. I don't know. Was it the death of something comes with thunderous applause? Was it democracy or freedom? I can't remember what. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So that was one of the scarier things, and the other scary thing was, okay, the dialogue wasn't as bad as people say. The only bits that really got to me were like the kids' delivery of like lines like "oops" and "yippee," which I don't really blame him for. Somebody scripted that and made him say it even when it sounded ridiculous. George should have probably been a bit more flexible with on set, and whoever was directing probably should have. They probably couldn't stray from a single word, but that's one element that didn't really work. But it's not as bad as people say. The film is not as bad as people say. There's part like I didn't revisit this film because it's so much politics and the fighting on Jar Jar's home world or whatever world it was with all just his slapstick stuff. I just didn't want to watch it again. It wasn't something you wanted to go back to. Like the original Star Wars, you wanted to go back again, again, again. These ones, everyone had to see it, and everyone did see it, and it made a lot of money, but it didn't have the sort of afterlife that the original trilogy did. Now, the second one, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, it starts off with the assassination, which was kind of shocking. It's jumped 10 years. Anakin's now an adult, and I don't know who's to blame for his performance. I don't know if it's Hayden Christian, or if it's George's writing, or if it's the direction, but he's so over the top and so disrespectful and arrogant, and I just can't believe he would last that long in the Jedi, and that Obi-Wan would put up with his crap for all that time. It just seems really really sort of overdone. And it's kind of hard to watch a few scenes just like, yeah, like he'd really say that, like he'd be that stupid, like he would be that foolhardy, like he wouldn't think before doing that. He's not a really realistic character, but you do understand him. He's still deeper than a lot of the other characters in the show, which are about as deep as a pixel. And I mean, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and Star Trek, you always wanted more. You wanted to see more Enterprise, more planets, more aliens, more complicated, more bigger effects, and you never really got them in the original movie series. Whereas this Star Wars and the prequels, it gets to the point of you feel like you're watching a cartoon, and that's one of the complaints that was addressed in the later Disney trilogy, where they then went too far the other way, and it's all filmed on real environments and on location, and that so much so that you lose that sense of wonder. And George always gave you a new planet, a new thematic sort of look to in different environments and aliens, and that is sort of missing from the new films as well. But got to stick to this. Now, the cloning factory is awesome. I mean, I loved the underwater planet in the first film, and the clone factory out on the ocean. I love those scenes. Just this ocean, rainy, stormy planet. Like it's just another one of those environments. I don't like all the environments and all the planets in um, the Star Wars films, but I do love that one. And of course, I have a little soft spot for our little Tamora Morrison, or whatever his name is. I can't pronounce. Um, I briefly met him at a Comic Con a while ago, and yeah. And the other guy, is it Jay? He's also local, so he gets ends up going to a lot of the conventions that I've been to. So I've met him as well. Had quite a chat with him. He's really nice. Something about making them the stormtroopers changed the way I looked at them. Not only did I think they were hotter because I knew what was underneath, but at least with the clones, they were still people. I never really knew who the stormtroopers in the other films were. Were they all just army recruits? Were they drones? Were they clones? Were they robots? What were they? They never really, you never really thought or cared. All you knew was they couldn't hit anything. Um, so okay, the story. I mean, God, Dooku rising up the insect planet with the whole other people breaking off separatists. Again, more politics, but at least this time we had some different set pieces. Um, and the big fight where they were basically going to kill Padme and Anakin in some big like Greek Colosseum sort of fight with monsters. That it was all fun, and God, the comedy with Free CPO and R2 was just beautiful. It worked. What they did with Jar Jar was juvenile and cringeworthy and didn't work the first time. No, I mean, I don't understand the idea of making something juvenile so kids will laugh at it and think that they're going to be able to watch it later as an adult, because this film might work for kids. The first film worked for kids. This film works for teenagers, adults. It's more mature, and kids can still enjoy it. And you should always go for that middle ground, just like the latest short treks, going for really kiddie stuff over more intelligent writing, and that just doesn't work. Doesn't have a shelf life. This film I can watch again, and it's so funny. I laughed out loud when Free CPO said, "Oh, I'm besides myself." Even though I kind of remembered that line, and he'd already said the whole, "Oh, what a drag," when his head is being dragged along behind R2. But it just works. They're so perfect. It works. Okay, so now we get to the third film, and it's a lot darker. The effects have gone another level. Like every film goes to another level with the effects. The detail. I mean, the first couple, you're aware you're watching CG, and some of it looks very animated in CG, and it's a little unfortunate because the detail and the design is there, but like the shadows are too dark and it just looks kind of animated. By the time they get to the third film, it looks flawless, and it's disturbing how real some of the scenes are, and it's bizarre. You're watching a man burn in lava, but you know it's not real, but it looks so real, and somehow it doesn't get like an R rating because we know it's not real, but it just yeah, it's I love looking at the city planet. Every shot, I'm just looking at all the lights and dots and the detail, and it's so much more on Blu-ray, because when you watch something in the cinema, you don't always necessarily get a really great focused, sharp image. And DVD, you never really did. If you did, you got pixels. Blu-ray, because I never had the time. I bought the Blu-ray years ago and didn't have time to watch them, and this is the first time I've really watched them. And aside from the fact that Phantom Menace, mine, I don't know, the local ones don't have subtitles for the alien languages. You have to put. Oh my God, there's a bug. What the hell? It's a spider. Okay, get off me. Um, there's you don't get the subtitles for the aliens, and you have to put the subtitles on for the whole film if you want to see the subtitles for the aliens. The second and third film, you get them, so it made things a bit easier. But yeah, Anakin being turned to the dark side, it's I find it hard to believe that he got sucked in and was manipulated, and I want to know, why was he so insecure and why was he so afraid of losing Padme that he would kill children. Um, we see over three films the journey, but I still can't quite kind of buy it. Um, I'm not sure why he was corrupted like that, but I mean, we all knew that's where it was going, and at the end, after he's rebuilt and lied to and told that he killed his own love, and his children. He does the whole Frankenstein stepping off the hospital bed thing and doing that horrible cliched no, which just would have been so meme worthy had the internet had been had Facebook and stuff like that been around back then, like it is now. It would have been mean to death. I don't want to talk too long. I've already gotten to 15 minutes, but the prequels weren't as bad as I remember. There was a journey, the characters, the evolution of George sort of making the films, the effects, the quality. It all grows. It all changes. God, what have I forgotten that I want to talk about? I don't know. Palpatine really. I forgot how important he was to the first trilogy, and it is less offensive that they are putting him in the Rise of Skywalker because he does seem to be central to the whole thing, and I don't know. It does sort of undermine the ending in the original trilogy, but it seems to make sense after watching the trilogy again, the prequel trilogy again, because I still was more familiar with the originals and kind of forgot how important Palpatine was and that he really did. He was behind everything, so I'm not as bothered by the fact he's going to come back for the last one. Even though it wasn't designed, and that's where what wasn't quite where George was going, apparently. Um, but yeah, I don't want to get stuck into, I guess, the story. That's all I can really talk about is the story details. And if you're watching this, if you care enough about Star Wars to watch this, you've seen the films. But yeah, I had trouble with Anakin's turning. It still doesn't seem enough. He seemed too easily manipulated. I just can't believe that Obi-Wan didn't teach him more. Like, where were the lessons? How? Like, I guess there wouldn't be a film, there wouldn't be a trilogy, there wouldn't be a series if it weren't for that failing of Obi-Wan. But and Yoda as well. They all failed to. Maybe he was destined to be evil. I don't know. I haven't worked it out. I haven't spent enough time thinking about it, but I'm not going to do a 20-minute video on this. I just want to do a video about the original trilogy, my experience watching them, just rewatching them, and enjoying them. And I'm going to enjoy the original trilogy tomorrow, and then I'll probably watch the other two films that night as well. I don't want to have to deal with them the same day as The Rise of Skywalker, but I'm not seeing that till midnight, so I've probably got time to do them then. But it's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy the next few days, and then afterwards we'll be unpacking The Rise of Skywalker, what it means for all the other films, and probably watching all the special features and documentaries and things I've been saving up for years and not had time to watch. But I'm going to go. It's 18 minutes, a bit too long. BB-8 and R2 say hello and goodbye, and feel free to like, subscribe, comment. Comments are fun. Let me know what you think of Star Wars. Thanks, bye.